PR is basically the Dream 100 on steroids, because you're going to people and places where your audience hangs out, right? That's influential, and you are working with them so then you can be aligned with them, right? And that they can become sort of like part of your sphere of influence.
The internet has made it easier than ever to start a business. Succeeding on the internet, now that's another story. The big question is, what are those who are succeeding doing differently? This podcast has the answers. Hi, my name is Lisanne Murphy. I've spent the last 3 years running a successful advertising agency. I noticed with certain clients, I ran into the same problem over and over again. Their offering was just not grabbing the prospect's heart and wrestling them into purchasing submission. Why? Many of these business owners were so far down the road in their journey and so in love with their product, they forgot who they were serving, missing some essential steps along the way. So, I'm pivoting focus. Join me as I go behind the scenes with the most brilliant entrepreneur minds to demystify the nitty-gritty marketing hacks needed to be successful before spending thousands on advertising that ultimately separate the internet legends from the dreamers. On the previous episode, you heard from Courtney Love Gavin, who just blew our minds about the power and simplicity of public relations to get your name out there. Make sure to check it out. But before you do, stick around because I've got Courtney on again, this time for her deep dive episode. We are seriously just pumped to have her share her unique story of how she left an incredibly successful corporate job to pursue her passions in entrepreneurship. Keep listening to hear her story. Welcome to the Marketing Matrix podcast. I'm your host, Lisanne Murphy, and I am joined today by the wonderful, beautiful, and talented Courtney Love Gavin. Courtney, thank you so much for being on the Marketing Matrix with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh man, it is our honor and our pleasure. I wanted to take a second. For those of you that aren't as familiar with Courtney and her story, I'm going to introduce her, and then she's going to share about her background, and then she's going to blow our minds today, guys. This lady is just bubbling with gems of awesome. So I'm very excited to learn from her. So Courtney Love Gavin is an award-winning PR strategist on a mission to help entrepreneurs grow their influence and income with PR, which is public relations. With 15 plus years of experience leading PR for the world's most admired companies, her PR expertise has been praised by Forbes, Cosmopolitan, BuzzFeed, and People. She's a proud member of the Female Founder Collective and is obsessed with championing PR. That's a powerful, persuasive, and genuine expression of your brand. Oh man, guys, listen in, stop whatever you're doing. This is going to be legit. Courtney, thank you so much again for coming.
Thank you for having me here. Now I just need to make sure that, minds will be blown.
Oh yes, it's going to be like just walking for you. It's going to be so easy.
Yeah. Just drop in bombs of knowledge. Maybe I should just leave now.
Yes. It's already, you've already done it. I love it. So for those of the listeners that aren't as familiar with your story, tell us, how did you get into PR and become this juggernaut who's recognized by these huge brands?
Thank you. The way that I got into PR was actually one of those career aptitude tests that I took in college. Oh, sorry, not college, high school. I thought that I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney, and I did actually end up double majoring. Poli-sci was my other major. But I took this test. It came back to me, and this was a long time ago. So I didn't really know what PR was. But, looking back, I wrote, for my city's newspaper when I was in high school, and it just seemed to make sense as far as, variety, working with people, writing, connecting. I liked it. And so I chose a college that had a top 5 national PR program, and I have been doing that ever since. But the way that I actually got all those publications to recognize the work and stuff that I'm doing was becoming an entrepreneur. And I created my own tangible goods company called Who's That Housewife, where I make like a tangible version of Heads Up about the Real Housewives and other Bravo celebrities. So, the only way that I knew how to really generate sales and awareness for my brand was through PR. And so I did that and became profitable within 30 days. And then realized, as I really dove into being an entrepreneur and having to, you know, do my own email marketing and all of that stuff, that no one was really talking about like PR, which blew my mind because I knew that it costs $0 to do it. And when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily have thousands of dollars to put into Facebook ads or paying an influencer to talk about your product or brand partnerships, et cetera, et cetera.
That's amazing. I love it. Okay. So obviously there's more to the story here because you don't just like do PR in corporate and then like decide one day to wake up and like become an entrepreneur. Like,
no.
So
no, and I honestly thought that entrepreneur, because I worked both in-house and on the agency side, I thought entrepreneur was a code for I don't really work or I have a trust fund. So
that is awesome. Newsflash.
Newsflash, I was wrong. Yeah, I felt as though I was creatively stifled. And the past 5 years, I've been working at entertainment studios. So I'm surrounded by so many brilliant people. And I also work with a lot of executives. And being in PR, I am that fly on the wall. So for example, if this were an executive of mine that were doing a podcast interview, I would be a silent listener, or I would be there and, Skyping with them if they were uncomfortable, things like that. So there's a lot of behind the scenes. And with that, I have learned so many brilliant business strategies that I have been able to apply to my own business. And so I wanted a side hustle, AKA something to do outside of work. And I'm a big Real Housewives fan. And I had made a game for one of my girlfriends for her birthday because I couldn't find anything. Like most entrepreneurs, there wasn't anything in the marketplace that existed. So I made it myself. And what I was thinking about, what could my side hustle be? Because I was pulling probably at least 80-hour weeks. And
that's brutal.
Yeah, right. And so it didn't necessarily seem sustainable to me to do PR outside of all the PR I was already, doing. And I made the game, and one of my friends was like, well, what about, your Housewives game? And I said, well, I'm not going to be home hot gluing on the weekends. That doesn't really seem like the best idea. And they had said, no, you can look into sourcing, supply chain management, all of that type stuff. And so that was about almost 2 years ago. And I'm used to, PR, things work fast, and same with entertainment. And so I was very, very surprised and disappointed that it took me a year to bring the game to market. And yeah, I did that, and it was sort of just like, okay, I've built all these other people and all these other brands. Why don't I try and do it on my own? And worst case scenario, I go back to my corporate PR job because I know that I rock at that. And I'm keeping my skills fresh as far as PR goes by doing PR for my own company.
Okay, this is blowing my mind. Okay, so you invent a board game so people at home can do their own neighborhood version of Real Housewives. Am I following that?
A little bit, yeah. So have you ever played the game Heads Up on your phone?
Yes.
So it's like that. I should have one nearby, but I don't. I have the warehouse is in my garage where all the components live. Because
the wear garage.
The wear garage. That's what I should call it. Yeah. The she shed. It is not Pinterest worthy. No, so I call them crowns or tiaras, but it is a plastic black thing that you put on there. And then I have all these hand-drawn illustrations of the various characters, and every person picks one. You put it up there so you can't see who you have. And then there's a cute little sparkly sand timer that comes with it. And so you can play it a lot of different ways. You can play it where people give you hints. That's the easier way to play. You can do it where you have to ask questions to other people and they need to give you answers. And so, yeah, it's just the way that I saw it was it's a great way to celebrate your fandom, because if you watch Real Housewives, part of the fun is just like talking about the outrageous things that people do on the show, and also their one-liners. Yes. So, I'm trying to think of something appropriate that I could say, as an example. One of them,
they're starting one up in Salt Lake really soon, and
really?
like everyone's all up in arms because like Salt Lake is like a pretty tame place compared to like other cities where they have it, like Atlanta and Houston and like all the other places. So
yeah. So so it's a very, very niche audience.
Yeah.
And I was a member of that audience. And so when I told people, like my father thought that I was crazy because he's like, why are you investing all of your, like, I basically sold all my furniture and put whatever savings I had, because I bootstrapped it, into this company. And because with physical products, you have to pay on the front end, right? It's why you see so many games on Kickstarter, for that reason. And so, and everything is made in America and recycled materials and all of that. Previously I was in-house at a company called MGA Entertainment. They make Little Tykes, and they're the largest independent toy company in the US. And so while I was there, I learned that games were the highest growth vertical in terms of toys, and also what components press look for when it comes to whether or not they want to write about, a product. And so in creating a brand, that was something that sort of informed me as far as like made in the USA, a charitable giving component, all of those pillars.
That's amazing. Okay, so you have this physical product and you're using your PR skills to get it out there and grow this thing. And do you help other companies with PR as well, or are you just doing PR for your own company?
Yes, I do. And that's actually what led me here, is that I was at my first retreat in May. So this was about 2 months after my product had launched, and I had just sort of started to part ways with my corporate gig. And I was at this retreat with these women who had, 6, 7-figure businesses. And in between sessions, the speakers were coming up to me and asking me PR questions. Like, hey, I have this, brand deal with Starbucks, and how can I, they're like, I've gotten some press, but it's all been press reaching out to me, this is where I want to be. Like, how are you able to do that for your company? And I was shocked, because here I had this baby brand and this baby business. And I'm thinking, if I was able to do this for mine, you can certainly do this for yours. And so it was really coming back from there, because I was not planning. Everyone that's listening probably knows, the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to create a company and a brand. And I had just done that. And so in my head, I'm like, and now I'm going to do that again, for something else? Like, no way. But I just really felt compelled for other, entrepreneurs and small business owners that, they need to be able to get their story out there, because the model as far as PR goes hasn't really shifted that much in the past 50 years, despite the media landscape. And so, to non-nerd it out for everyone that's listening, what I mean is that usually if you want to hire a PR agency, right, it's several $1,000s a month when I worked in-house at an agency, we didn't take any clients for less than $20,000 a month for a several month minimum, right? And same thing if you're going to hire a publicist, right? Like an individual person. But most people don't really know what PR is. And so as an entrepreneur, like the money that I earn, it means so much more to me than it does when I just show up for a paycheck. And so in my mind, I'm just like, what kind of person is going to take, let's say $10,000 of like their money that like they showed up and that they made for themselves and give it to someone that they know nothing about, and they're telling them the results are not guaranteed. Like there's just this huge, huge disconnect. And so I firmly believe that PR is a skill, that it's something that is learnable, and that also we have the most to gain, you know, from it, because it can really be like what brings your brand, you know, to that next level. And if you want to create a sustainable business that's going to be around like for 10 years, like you will always be outspent when it comes to advertising. But to like build your loyal league and tribe, you need to instill like trust, authority, and credibility. And PR is what I think the best way to do that.
That's amazing. Okay. So do you teach entrepreneurs how to do it, or do you have an agency and it's done for you?
I offer both. So, and then there's also something that's more like in between. So like done with you, I would say. And because the way that I look at it is that sometimes when you hire someone or an agency, it's sort of like they're a broker for you, right? And so once you stop paying them, you can't really get your fix. And so I really encourage even my clients that I am, you know, executing and doing most of it for them, that I really help them develop those relationships with media contacts and to help them so they can implement in their business, you know, having someone else do a lot of like the, you know, execution type things so that it is, you know, sustainable. Because I'm not looking to create my own, you know, agency and stuff like that. I really want people to be able to learn, you know, what principles, you know, they can do, or just, you know, getting set with an awesome strategy that then they can, you know, go out and, you know, sort of get their feet wet.
I love
because
it.
The way that you're going to be most successful is if you understand how it works, right? Like I compare it to, if I had no idea how to clean and I hired a cleaning person, what kind of results am I going to get, right? Like I come home 10 minutes later, well, why isn't everything clean? You know, or they're telling me it costs $2,000 in 2 days to like clean my house. My house isn't that big. You know, like you really have no idea. But because I know how to clean, right? I pick up the stuff in advance before my house cleaner comes. I will be able to tell them, hey, can you make sure that, you know, you get the ledges and stuff up there? And it just makes for a better relationship and a better result. Sorry, cleaning might not be the best analogy.
No,
but
I love it. I love it. It's amazing. Okay. So as you're working with entrepreneurs, and like you say, it's like, it's a PR in the digital world. It's like, it's not as much a changed art, but it's a lost art.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what are entrepreneurs like when you talk to them? Are they just totally missing or not taking into account, misunderstanding about PR that you're like, oh my gosh, like you've got to understand this one thing because you're missing it?
You know, I find that it's usually just complete avoidance, and the mentality that it's something that's reserved for much bigger businesses. I can't afford it. I need to wait until then, like this certain time. And that it's intimidating maybe, and very time consuming, and that maybe they like, well, why me? Right. I haven't had anyone that initially off the bat has said, oh, I'm so excited about PR. I'm so glad there's finally someone out there who's willing to teach me how to do it, because that's really all that I've heard it compared to bookkeeping. Sorry to all the bookkeepers out there, which in my mind, I'm like, really? But yeah, I mean, like, what do you think of when you think of PR, Lisa? Anne?
So when I think of PR, I love that question. So PR has been on my mind recently because a few weeks ago I had Cree Gentile on my show, and she is a branding expert. And she said that whether you try or not, you're communicating a brand. So like, you better be intentional about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that PR is probably very, very similar. That like, whether you are intentional about your PR or not, you are communicating to the public about who you are, what you stand for, the message you're trying to communicate, the authority you're trying to build, and whatever. So, but I'll be completely honest. Like,
Yes.
I don't know the first thing about PR, like not even one. I mean, I know that it's probably important, but I would fall into the category that it's for bigger, mature businesses. Like, maybe I'll get there eventually. I've totally fall into that category.
Is that because you feel that it's not necessary right now, or it's something that's more like, oh, I'll deal with that when
That's a great question.
I need investors? Or
so for me, it falls into two things. It's a lack of clarity of what it will do for the business, and especially as a growing business, if it can't be tied directly to revenue generated, then it's not on the front of your mind. And so like, the big question mark for me is like, how will PR impact the bottom line?
Yeah.
And I know that you have like an amazing answer for that, but like, for me as an entrepreneur, like that's not clear.
Well, I think because it's something that isn't, talked about. And, I used to think, before I got into this space of being an entrepreneur, especially in like PR, like marketing, teaching, I don't know if there's like a name for that genre, but I thought that it was hack jobs, right? So, because that's what I saw people who didn't know the first thing. I still see them who don't know the first thing about PR publicity, and they are shopping themselves as an expert, right? Where they have no training, no, like, believe it or not, there's like a code of ethics for journalists and press. And like, those people have spent like years and decades, like really earning their stripes. Like, there's very, very little nepotism, when it comes to that. The people who are like making decisions, and to have, people out there that are just like, oh, I can make you go viral, or, you're going to be famous and stuff like overnight. I just feel that, it's not there. So, and I feel because of that, when you going back to profitability, because they don't know how to do that, right? Like, they've never been taught or implemented like strategic public relations and how it is a business driver. They're just out there showing the glossy, like, oh, do you want these logos on your website? Right. All of that type stuff, where I get it. Right. Like, even if it's not direct, like, you need to be thinking about, how is this going to help my business in the long run, right? Like, how is it reaching, your audience? Because we are inundated with so many messages. Like, I was thinking about this last night for my social media strategy, and like Pinterest, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, right? And like, where, like, I can't do all the things, so like, where is it going to be the best, and why? And what am I willing to do right now?
I love that. Yeah. So, and I'll say, I think as you were talking, I was saying, okay, so like, what is the extent to like my efforts in PR? I think I will say this. So I'm going to Funnel Hacking Live next week in Nashville.
I'm so excited for you.
And it's gonna be such a blast. But like, my extent in PR is like, I'm going shopping on Saturday to make sure my outfits are picked out, so that like, I show up well in person, publicly, to have good relations. And that's important, and I got my hair done and stuff like that. So, but in terms of like putting a brand out there like that, yeah, that's something that I think me and many, many entrepreneurs and so many of our listeners, like, that's just not something that we think about very often.
Which is funny, because we all generate so much content, right? And so it's really just like owning that narrative through a different lens.
Yeah.
Because the bigger you get, like with companies and stuff, like I've brought in and had to like pioneer PR because they've never done it before, but they've gotten a lot of press. And it sort of, they realize that if we're not telling our story, someone else is going to tell it for us. And that might not be along the lines of A, who we really are, or B, where we want to go. And so, thinking back to Funnel Hacking Live, are you familiar with Russell? Have you read his books or listened to his podcast and stuff?
I sure have.
So when I'm thinking this might be like a future Facebook Live or something for me to do he talks about the Dream 100, right? Yeah. So PR is basically the Dream 100 on steroids. Because you're going to people and places where your audience hangs out, right? That's influential, and you are working with them so then you can be aligned with them, right? And that they can become sort of like part of your sphere of influence. So I feel like that can help maybe contextualize it sometimes for people.
Yeah. No, that's super awesome. I love it. Okay. So if you're sitting down with an entrepreneur, and you come across them and you're like, oh honey, we need to talk about your PR. What is the framework, or like, is there like you've got to understand these few things or think about these few things to understand and own the PR game?
Yeah. So I'm all about profitable PR. I think that we have so much to do as being an entrepreneur that, you might think, oh, I really want to be on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday or the Today Show, or, insert dream opportunity here. But I'm all about like, how is this going to help your business grow? And so the first thing that I will do is I'll ask them, what are your business goals? And specifically SMART goals, meaning like, what is it that you need to help like grow your business? And so an example that I'll use is, let's say I'm sitting down with an entrepreneur who's a massage therapist, and what she really needs to grow her business is that she needs a lot more local clients. And let's say she's in Utah, for example. But when we first started talking, she said that she really wanted to speak at Create and Cultivate. So Create and Cultivate, awesome conference. But as far as like what's really going to help her bottom line, it's not going to be speaking at Create and Cultivate. It's going to be
leads.
It's the local angle and what's going to work. So I think it's best to just start with one. So like, what is one SMART goal, right? And have that as your North Star. Then I think you need to ask your audience. And if you don't have an audience, that's okay. Go into Facebook groups where like your target market people hang out and say, hey, like who do you look, let's say you're a fitness person, who do you look to, as a fitness influencer? Where do you get your tips? Do you have a Peloton, whatever it might be, right? And look at other people that are in your competitive landscape. Even if they're like 10 years ahead of where you want to be, go on their press page, go on Listen Notes, see what podcasts they've been on. And from there, then you're going to get your target list as far as these are the right places that I need to be targeting because my audience is telling me that's where I need to go. And then from there, I would start to interact with them, like get to know where the places that you need to be, who are the people behind the scenes, and what is it that they're writing about, right? Because I don't hear this much, but what I do hear from some people is, I'm sending all these pitches and no one's writing back. It's crickets, right? Or I've tried to tell them my story idea and they didn't like it. And so I think that, again, it's all about knowing your audience. I compare it to throwing darts versus spaghetti up against a wall and seeing what sticks. You're starting to like build that relationship because PR isn't transactional. It's about like getting people to care and being compelling. And you have to think about, okay, how can I help serve their audience? And it also helps because then the first time they're hearing from you, you're not a total random, right? Like, I'm not just saying I love, your podcast. They know that because I posted a review about it already, or I screenshotted that I was listening to it in my Instagram stories a couple weeks ago, or I replied to their newsletter saying, I love this, or, whatever it might be.
That's amazing. I love it.
Is that helpful?
Oh, this is so good.
Those are 3 little things that I think anyone can do. And maybe it's like looking at it outside of the lens of PR and public relations.
Yeah.
Because I think most people, right, when you're thinking about goals for your business, you think about your audience. And even if you're buying ads, maybe you think about what are the brands or people or places that are in your lookalike, right?
Yeah. I love it. This is amazing. And I know that our audience is loving this as well. Okay. So I want to go back to your journey a little bit. So you make the decision to help these people because people that you are looking up to are coming to you for advice. And you're like, wow, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
Like, has it always been clear to you how you want to help entrepreneurs and what you want to create? And like, you've like, yes, this is what I'm doing. Or like, has it been like I don't know, I'll try this and pivot and then this and then pivot. And like what has the journey been like for you?
I mean, it's definitely been pivoting because I thought that I would be doing tangible goods and being a creative director over there, which I still do. And now that business, it's been almost a year, I have my vendor, it flows easier. So it doesn't take as much time, right, as it did, when I'm getting box samples and, all of that stuff. So I really thought that was what I was going to be doing. And it was because the questions kept coming up also on the influencer side, right? So the way that Who's That Housewife became super successful was through influencers, non-paid, right? And I approached them the same way that I would a press person. I didn't say, hey, I have this thing, will you post about it? I knew like them, like Lemon Stripes, for example. She's a really popular lifestyle influencer and blogger, right? Like I knew who her 5 favorite Real Housewives were. So I was able to reach out and say, hey, I have this thing. It seems like right up your alley. And I was able to say, I know these are your 5 favorites and it has 3 of them, in there. Would you be willing to give it a whirl? Right? Because the point is that even if someone signs away their firstborn in an email with you, once they get your product and experience it, if they don't love it, they're not going to talk about it because influencers work on the currency of trust. Same with press, but especially with influencers. And so, she says, yes, I ship it to her because that's something that I see a lot of product-based businesses do, is that they get an address, and then they just spend all this money shipping their products. And they're like, yeah, no one's writing about them. And I'm like, well, I've been at agencies where all these products get shipped to celebrities, and guess what? They go into a closet most of the time. So, making sure that that's there, and then asking them, giving them some time, like, hey, what did you think? Did you like it? And if they didn't post about it, which knock on wood has never happened, but I genuinely want to know why, because I want to improve it, and to really like get that feedback. But some of the influencers were asking me, well, what do I charge people, right? Like, you've been on the other side of this. What should I be doing? And so I just really felt compelled to share what I knew with, other people, like to pay it forward if that helps, and to not have it as some sort of pyramid scheme where I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know, and I'm going to make it seem so freaking overwhelming that you will just be like, here, take my money, do it, right? Or I'm going to make it seem that I am basically a rocket scientist over here pulling all the levers for PR, and there is no way on earth, unless you want to take the 20 years of experience that I have and apply it, and then maybe you can get close because guess what? I have killer instincts, right? No. I'm not going to do that.
I love it. Oh, this is amazing. Okay. So, it's evolving with you as you're learning and growing. And I love how market centered you are. You're listening to your market and you're making adjustments as you learn from them. So, yeah. So what does this year look like? Like, where is this? Where's Courtney going? with this whole thing?
TBD, but I am so excited for 2020. In so many different ways. So as far as the do-it-yourself, method, I met a fantastic woman at my co-working space, The Riveter, and she is a publicist with a ton of experience. Hers is more in health and wellness and with independent musicians. And she did something amazing called the DIY PR boot camp for a lot of independent artists, because PR is, really important to them so they can get signed to a label. And so she created this whole program. And when I came back from the retreat, I was telling her that I was sort of thinking about this. And so we decided to partner on a course together.
Cool.
Yeah. And so we have that, and that's really exciting. And working, I'm still figuring out, I think, like, people talk about niching down. I don't know if I necessarily want to do that, because I have worked with so many different PR clients and companies over the years. And I feel like that helps me be better at what I do, because I'm able to bring in all of these other things, and the strategies remain the same. So I've never had an issue of, I've never worked in, ultra low dose ray, border control type things, which I've had a client in that in the past, or femtocells and cell phones. Like it runs the gamut, right? I did it all in order to get experience. And so, I think it's more like figuring out like where that magic is with me. And I do feel that a lot of that is with women, owned companies. And I love creatives and like entrepreneurs. So I still want to stay, I think, in that realm. Also, impact is really important to me. So like nonprofits and like missions and people that I really believe in, and how I can help get them out, in the world. A future thing that Katie and I have talked about is possibly doing some sort of like live events or immersion, programs type things, where everyone can come to like a beautiful house in Malibu, and we can work with them on their branding and PR, and then also, bring in journalists that they can get, feedback with, and really, just helping them that way. So
I love that.
Who knows? I never thought I would be here a year ago. So
congratulations. This is
Thank
very
you.
exciting.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what has been something like, as you've been on this journey and leaped out of corporate, what has been the hardest thing for you to work through as you've been on this journey?
The uncertainty, 100%. So I am a planner, and I have been used to, I know how much money I'm going to be bringing home, and forecasting and everything like that. And I was banging my head against a wall in the beginning. I mean, thank goodness for the women in like a mastermind that I was in, who have been doing this for a lot longer than I have, because they sort of laughed, and they're like, yeah, that's just part of it. Right? Like,
yep,
you don't know.
You signed up for that.
Right? So you can be pleasantly surprised. And sometimes, you'll be, I'm sure you feel this way, you're like, have so many clients, you don't even know what to do with it. And then there'll be other times where maybe things aren't as flush. And so embracing that. And I think it was Brooke Castillo on one of her podcast episodes, she had talked about, as an entrepreneur, that fear is something like your wallet, right? Like, you don't leave your house without it. But what you can do is you can use that to propel you forward. And instead of looking at it as this, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm going to do, you can be like, you know what? I'm doing something that no one's ever done before. And so, like, heck yes, that means that I'm a little bit scared, and who knows what's going to come next. Because if someone had done it before, then I wouldn't be doing something new. And so taking that mindset, and then reminding myself when I am worried about something, that's just suffering twice. That
no need to suffer double.
Yeah. So for me, it's the uncertainty that's been the hardest, the hardest thing. I don't know if you hear that from other people that you talk to, but from such a long time in corporate, that was like the biggest, oh my God, why do people do this?
That's been a huge thing for me as well. It was one of the things that kept me from leaving corporate earlier, was just, I was so ingrained with just consistency and certainty, and yeah, and that was a tough one for me. So I totally identify with that.
And I will say something that we have in common, and for anyone that's listening, if you are a single female, right? Like if you are the head of your own household, that is something I feel like that weighs on you a lot more, right? Where you don't have the backup of either your significant other or your parents to sort of like bail you out. And so when I say like that fear is real, like it's real.
It is.
Like I'm the only single unmarried woman in my mastermind. And so like they, they sympathized with me, but they would say, well, I'm really lucky because if, this goes awry, then I'm not like my mortgage is going to be paid. Right. Mm-hmm. Where I am in a situation where it's like, my dog and I are going to be living the van life. Right. Like if this doesn't, hashtag van life coming to an Airstream near you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I do feel that is something that is important to just like recognize. So, because for me, I think it helps to know that you're not alone, and that it's for me to know that other entrepreneurs go through that too. And then I feel like it just sort of like pulls out the air a little bit. So you can be like a little bit more at ease, and that you just need to take the leap, and that it's all about being resourceful.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, and realizing that like as an entrepreneur, like your fortunes can change like immediately. I mean, it's
in an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy. So
you
just have to like keep I think that those that win are those that keep going. It's just don't give up, keep going, because you'll figure it out.
And they're consistent, and it changes. Like Julie Stoyan, hopefully I didn't butcher her last name. I feel like she is such an inspiration to me, because I think she's so smart and amazing. And for me to think that however many years ago, like she wasn't able to see her children, and was doing webinars about, MailChimp templates and things like that. And, was then the CMO of ClickFunnels, like to hear that like journey, and that, I just like, to me, I think that it shows that things can change very fast. And the important thing is that you just need to be able to course correct and iterate. And what you're doing right now, you don't have to do forever. Like people talk about this 10-year plan and, everything like that, like pivot. It's a big thing. And if something's not working, then change. But I think that like being adaptable is, still stay true to who you are, but I think you're picking up when I'm dropping.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. Oh man, you have dropped some amazing truth bombs. You did not disappoint. I'll tell you that much. I know you were like maybe that bit worried. You were amazing. And thanks so much for sharing your journey and your heart, as well as you're like, yeah, this is scary, and I'm pivoting, and I don't know exactly where I'm going, but I know that I have big dreams and big goals to really help people in this arena. So that is powerful stuff. So how can people follow you and your journey? And if they're like, from this, they're like, yes, okay, I am converted, I have to be more attentive to PR. Like, give us the scoop. How do people get in touch with Courtney Love Gavin?
Well, they can go to CourtneyLoveGavin.com, Courtney with a C, because I'm old school. And I made something for your audience. So if they go to CourtneyLoveGavin.com/matrix, they can find this awesome guide that I put together that has some of the strategies that we talked about, as far as what I would talk about with an entrepreneur if they just wanted to get started. And it's this awesome guide that lays out 5 different strategies for you to do, with lots of tips and things like that. So please go get it. I hope you enjoy it. And I'm on all the socials at Courtney Love Gavin. And yes, please say hi. I love connecting and learning about other entrepreneurs and what they're doing. I also do a weekly live show on Facebook called PR Pro Tips Live. And so if you have any questions or something that you specifically want answered for your business, let me know and we can do it on a live episode.
That's amazing. I love that so much. There's so much. And seriously, like guys, like as I've been listening to this, I'm like holding myself back from just asking like 10,000 questions. And like when she wrote down like things that she could cover, like we got to have her back because like we've only scratched the surface. So guys, go check her out. I'm going to put all of those links, and I really appreciate you for making a special thing for listeners. So I'll put that in the episode notes as well. And so Courtney, again, thank you so much for sharing who you are and what you do and for being on the Marketing Matrix today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning into the Marketing Matrix podcast. On the next episode, you're going to hear from yours truly again. We took the time to dive into defining your who for the last 6 solo episodes. Now we're going to talk about how to discover where they are hanging out online so you can draw them out and create buying, raving fans for your business. You definitely do not want to miss this, so click over and let's go. But while I've got you, wanted to always remind you about the Marketing Matrix Toolbox and the incredible resources that are there. This resource has tons of free marketing tools to make your marketing journey easier. We add new content to it each week. So check it out and register for instant access at toolbox.themarketingmatrixpodcast.com. And if you want to join the conversation surrounding marketing, check out my free Facebook ads for coaches, course creators, and lifestyle brands Facebook group. This is an awesome community of people trying to master the ad game and to scale their business, all while saving time. You can join that free group at www.facebook.com/groups/FBAdNinjas. All right, guys, that's it for now. See you next time on The Marketing Matrix.